So let's say you found the skeleton. How would you tell it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Canadian Volcanoes. I am here with Kipp and Landon and Chesh and me, and only some of us actually know how to, be quiet when the stream starts. It was not Kipp this time, but actually,
I'm Dapper's favorite person.
Landon, until we actually need to have the screen share up, can we take it down just for a little bit?
Okay.
It'll be a cleaner layout for now, especially during intros. So we're here because on Saturday, Kipp, who is in the bottom left here, for some unusual reason, was talking about volcanoes and how much Canada just doesn't have a single one before the show. And then now that Kipp is muted, so I can finish the story without interruption. And then once we went live, he said, "Yeah, I stand by the fact that there are 0 volcanoes in Canada, and if I can be shown wrong, I will pledge $500 a month to Dapper's Patreon," which was a really weird thing for him to say. Unfortunately, for legal reasons, I've had to edit that out of the original stream, so you can't go back and check on it. But so now we're here with Landon, who is in fact a planetary scientist who does volcanology work, and we're here with Kipp, and we're also here with Chesh, who is our extra token Canadian, so that Kipp doesn't feel ganged up on.
That's awesome. Thank you for being here, Chesh.
Your moral support.
No problem.
No, but also Chesh is the producer and host of the Pele's Time of the Month volcano show.
Okay, that's the actual reason, yes, but it's funnier if I just say that she's only here as moral support for Kipp.
Oh, sorry, trademark. Now,
well, damn it.
I'm here to back
for
up
moral
without question and just say there are absolutely no volcanoes in Canada, in anywhere that matters.
Yeah. So Kipp, when you said $500, you didn't specify which dollar.
Oh no, he actually did. He said United States dollars.
No,
it was weird.
I did not say. I said none of that stuff.
Well, you
can go back. It's a live show. You can actually go back and watch.
You would be able to if I didn't have to edit that out for legal reasons. And my lawyer said I can't talk about them.
any editing, because we can tell. We can actually see it.
If it makes you feel any better, if you delay a little bit, the American dollar is going to be worth less and less and less and less.
But Dapper, were you editing it out like they were removing Agent Orange name from certain files that we're not allowed to mention? Is that why you were part of that editing, or is it just a generic editing for legal reasons?
Oh, just general editing for legal reasons. Yeah,
And Kipp, I will say that Zimbabwean dollars have a really nice exchange rate if you're looking for.
Oh, good.
Well, they did.
Yeah. I'm not, because I never said any of that, but it's good to know. Thank you, Landon.
Well, because of course this is sometimes a democracy. We have a poll up that says, "Did Kipp promise me 500 US a month? Yes or no?"
Look, 100%. Say
yeah. Well,
no.
Now it's 60.
Damn.
So, Volcano Truth or Tad for $5 says, "Doing this stream while I'm at work is a crime against me specifically." I'm sorry. So the answer is, of course, anyone who votes yes is definitely a good person and is deserving of happiness and wealth and power.
Everybody who votes no is right. So
hold on,
is there a turtle option?
No, not
I
on
have
this
to
one.
switch I have to switch to top hats off so I can vote no, and I got to switch to debate hub so I can vote no, and I got
everybody else switch to all your alts
channel to vote yes. No. Hold on, I got 2 more to go. I'm almost done. Listen, you told me that you brought me on here to support Kipp, so this is what you did this to yourself.
Damn straight. That's right.
I should have switched to Chesh's channel first and voted yes with her channel for her. Which is a
thing
I could do.
You should have done that. Correct.
I see the numbers are moving us forward. Now, is this polling done in the way that they do in the Duma, where there, or even the CCP, where there's correct voting and there's incorrect voting?
Yes, the correct option is yes. That's the correct option.
Okay. No, I believe they did the right thing.
All right, so now that we have it out of the way that Kipp definitely is going to be
Can-
owing me 500 a month until
can we-
one of us
can we-
dies.
Can we explain what actually happened?
No.
Yes.
Sure.
No, we can't.
me.
No.
Tell me.
Kip's
Tell me.
gonna have to
please.
do a
I
video
wasn't
on his
there.
own channel.
Kip, I wasn't there, Kip. Educate me on this.
Debunking Dapper's lies about me.
So, listen, guys, and we all know that Dapper thinks that he has passed peer review by failing peer review.
Was that me? I feel like that might have been Dick Handler.
I feel like that was you. But anyways,
Interesting.
so as you know, as people know, I live in British Columbia because I'm very fortunate, and I thank the gods every day for that. The sad thing is, on occasion, this province burns down. So I was sharing a picture with some friends on Saturday of one of the parts of this province that I particularly love burning down. And when
You love
when
burning
I
it down?
no, I was sad about it. It happens, right? People, it
Yes.
just the province is pretty regularly on fire. So it's just one of the drawbacks, one of the very, very, very few drawbacks of living here. So
This
but,
place
you
is
know,
great, except it burns down every 20 minutes.
yeah, that's it, right? So otherwise, it's awesome. So I was sharing a picture, and I shared the picture with Dapper and Vish of this place that I love here in British Columbia burning down. I shared it with my friend Maya.
The comma is very important in this sentence.
It's very important. So, and she responded by asking what gods we in Canada pissed off, and why don't we throw a virgin in a volcano to correct that? And I was like, wow, where would I do that? I don't like. There's a big ass volcano right over there.
That's not what
but
Kipp said.
It's not. It's
So
not
we don't really have any
on
volcanoes.
my side of the line. Well, this is what I was thinking, right? I was thinking volcanoes, and I was like, volcanoes are pointy fire rocks that point up and blow fire out of the tops. And I don't know any of those in Canada, so I'm always happy to learn about things that I don't know. So I was told that number one, there are pointy fire rocks in Canada, and number two, that volcanoes are not just pointy fire rocks, which honestly I find a little disappointing. So I think it would be cool if all volcanoes were pointy fire rocks.
I mean,
The
it
end.
certainly would be.
Now,
Yeah.
I
Number
would say
two,
that the pointy firewalk thing is something. In fact, I was watching someone Red Eye play a game, and it had a artist idea about what a volcano is, and it was pointy fire rocks, but the volcanoes tend to be more rounded bits because when the lava comes out, instead of just poking up, it tends to slosh around. So they tend to have rounded tops, but the shield ones get to be very very flat. We'll look at some of these
right.
volcanoes in Canada, because yes, Canada does have volcanoes. Those volcanoes are even more polite than the volcanoes in Hawaii. I will point that out.
It's
that's
on brand.
I
brand.
think it's fair to say, isn't it, that our volcanoes are so polite that they're almost never the cause of my province burning down. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, I think so. And
yeah,
the other thing, of course, is that volcanoes setting stuff on fire requires that stuff to be tender dry. if you go and look, for example, at what happens when lava flows go in on the Big Island of Hawaii, that it gets so much rain that the stuff will burn when the lava contacts it, but it doesn't really turn into a major forest fire across the way, thankfully.
Linda, you're getting a little crackly. Could you check your connection on your microphone? Also, we have a few things. Ambi Quantum Yiddish Z, who's been a member for 17 months, says, listening during my 1 hour break nap under my desk. Well, I am glad that you are enjoying with your work
Thank
break.
you for joining us, George Costanza.
Also, with 29 votes, did Kipp promise me $500 US per month? Yes, 51%. No, 48%. So, Kipp,
I will be.
That's just what happens.
I will be looking for all you yes voters to join my Patreon so that I can afford to send that money over to Dapper.
I mean, it's not like 5 of them or so were me.
Didn't Agent Orange win by that percentage?
I would have to double check the results on that one. I don't keep that number in my head. Sorry, Landon.
So is this a better sound?
Yeah,
yes,
it sounds
actually,
way
yeah,
better.
that is a lot better.
Yeah.
Were you on the wrong mic?
Well, it put me on the wrong mic, but
Yeah.
when we were doing the mic check, no one checked.
Yeah, there was no crackling at that point. It started like really not long before I said something. So, all right. So Landon, where did the volcanoes in Canada come from? Like, what is the source of the volcanic activity in Canada? Is it the same as it is in like places like Washington or Oregon and Alaska?
I think much of the volcanism in Canada, in relatively recent things, comes from the Ring of Fire. The Western Canada and
I have heard of
BC in
that.
particular.
That's what happens after you eat
is
too many ghost
on
peppers.
The Rings of Fire, but Canada's volcanic history actually goes back to the Precambrian eon, right? There's been, at least we know at least about 3.1 billion years ago. Sorry, young Earthers.
Are you really?
No, I'm not. I was saying I should have said sorry, trademark Canada, because it's the volcanism continues to occur in northern Canada in modern times. I would also say the other thing is that one of the things about Canada's most recent volcanic activity, which occurred at the turn of the late 1800s, early 1900s, is that it sometimes happens in British Columbia and no one notices it. That's a theme, or they think it's there and they come and find it is not. The volcanoes, because British Columbia, by the way, is a very beautiful province. If you have a chance to go and tour in there, extraordinary geology, extraordinary flora and fauna, and fun people. So I highly recommend it. But a lot of the, a lot of the recent stuff that's happened, one of the characteristics is that there's sort of a question about did it happen or not, because there's lots of British Columbia that no one sees, no one is there, right? Although even the First Nations people that are there don't always notice when, with one major exception, when eruption occurs. So when we talk about Canadian volcanoes being very polite, when they did erupt in the late 1800s, it was barely noticed. That being said,
Wow.
There are a number of volcanoes there. Now, Canada's rich mining and mineral history particularly in the eastern provinces and around in places like Ontario, come in part or are due in part to volcanoes. Also, the diamonds that come from Canada. If you know about the in the upper north part of Canada where they have these diamond mines, those tend to be ancient volcanoes where the plume that comes up will bring up bring carbon compressed that will then form diamonds, and so like the mining industry there for Canadian diamonds will wait until it's frozen, go onto the lake, drill down in the lake, and tap into basically the ancient core of that volcanic uplift to then extract diamonds.
Wow.
Canada played a very important role in the downfall of apartheid, and one of the ways it did was to really expand its diamond industry and break the De Beers, a apartheid organization of South Africa, break their hold on the diamond industry. Also,
Way to go, Canadian
yeah,
volcanoes.
and
Hey,
and
real
if
quick-
you
Canada
have
has
a diamond saw,
we've got our fingers in a lot of things on a geopolitical scale that I think most people don't know because we don't brag about it all the time.
Because we don't have to.
Real quick,
Yes.
from Metageeky Platypus Librarian for $5. We have here now and waiting to hear how Landon snuck weird rules for computation into the Canadian volcanic system, and how many fumaroles are Mersenne. How many fumaroles are Mersenne?
well, I guess the question is, how do you count? Because Mersenne numbers are 2 to an integer minus 1, and we use integers greater than positive integers.
Right.
So now people tend to be more interested in Mersenne primes, but Mersenne, who was a French monk and a very interesting character, the Mersenne numbers are 2 to integer power minus 1. So you'd have to figure out, well, how do you count something and give it a Mersenne number? I do like those numbers because they're amongst my favorite.
Now, actually, that relates to a question that isn't super related, but I did notice at one point you gave Chesh a new prime number, and I was wondering, could I get a new highly composite number?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
Doesn't have to be right now. I would just like to have a highly composite number named after me, because I personally like highly composite numbers even more than primes. Which it's a completely arbitrary, subjective thing. You don't have to agree with me. It's just my personal take.
I mean, there are plenty of integers to go around. It's a renewable resource. We're not going to run out of integers.
No, not.
That being said, even if the Department of Energy does wacky things, our integers are going to be continuing going. But I guess Dapper, the thing that you probably don't want to do is just get a factorial, right? Just because factorials are fairly commonplace. That's 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5. Blah, blah,
So
blah,
like a non-factorial highly composite number.
Yeah, I think you'd want a number which is interesting. Now, one of the ways it may be is that it's interesting because it has of how it's factored. Another might be interesting because it might be neighboring, like for example, something in the middle of 2 primes, in the middle of a twin prime or something like that. So let me think about that. In the case with Chesh, it was palindromic. We were doing for some reason. Conversation with Chesh, you never know where they're going.
Well, I don't want to get too far off into the various
but yes,
integers.
I will think about that.
Okay,
I will think
thank you.
about
Is it Bully Chesh Day today? What did I?
What?
It was a compliment.
These are all compliments.
I don't believe you.
Okay, fine. We'll take your prime number away. Will that make you feel better?
No.
Okay, then.
One of the largest palindromic primes is the Chesh prime. So yes, there you go. At least palindromic in base 10. So I will think about that.
Okay.
Vapor. So back to volcanism, right? Because so many of Canada's geological and geographical features, its mineralization comes from is steeped in volcanoes. The Canadian Shield volcanisms led to lots of areas. Of course, Canada had a very, for example, eastern Canada. If you talk in Nova Scotia, the dangly bit off the other end.
Oh, the
Canada.
Shulim.
Yes, that whole Fundy, the very famous Bay of Fundy that has tides that are significant, non-trivial. That whole area is rich in volcanic stuff. It was the continent was cracking at the time and had lots of volcanism going on in eastern Canada. I mean, the things like, for example, the Lurkum Super Belt and the Red Lake Greenstone Belt and the mid-continent rift system had lots of stuff there. So I had the pleasure of going and touring in Nova Scotia with a gentleman who was very knowledgeable about history as well as geology of the area, and there's some fascinating things. But again, we're talking about things that are on the order of 2.5 to nearly 3 billion years ago type of events. And then of course some of the more recent stuff, like the mid-continent rift system, is about 1 billion years ago. So there has certainly have been in eastern Canada lots of volcanic things in the past. And again, we're talking about in eastern Canada, I'm referring to sort of Ontario on over, including Quebec, and it's but a lot of
We include them
Canada's-
sometimes.
That's okay. Well, there's Western Canada, and then there's Alberta. Anyway, back to so with a lot of Canada's mineral riches, so forth, comes from ancient volcanism. If Canada were just a bunch of dry lake beds that got pushed up, it would not have the significant minerals and processes there. But again, Eastern Canada, we're talking a long time ago. In terms of stuff, it did have some violent explosive eruptions around that time. Very large plumes of magmatic rock poured over. But again, we're talking about things in the probably 3.8 to 2.5 billion years ago. But let's focus on Western Canada. Western Canada and Alberta has a very rich volcanic history. They have a number of current belts, volcanic belts, and the most active ones in recent times are in British Columbia. There is a Winnipeg Quarantine belt, and there's other belts in there, but most of the things we know about and can see today, the volcanic fields, are in Western Canada, and particularly British Columbia. So let me do a screen share if Dapper may permit that.
I will. And while we are working on that, Roshan, Rip Inside Jokes Keller for $4.99 says, Landon searches for new primes like I search for privacy leaks in iOS.
Yes. Wow. There is some interesting privacy iOS leaks. And part when you start getting other entities involved, as soon as, it's like secret sharing, as soon as you start sharing with someone else, now you have your problems and their problems and the communication in between. So the privacy leaks in iOS get to be more and more complicated as you begin to use apps and as entities try to force open things more and more. You can always use Android, which by definition is a privacy leak. I mean, it is designed to be a privacy leak, but at least iOS they try. So here we have we're looking at a map here.
Now, Landon, I just want to make sure this is more than 0 volcanoes that Kipp was suggesting were in Canada, right?
Yes, this is more than 0.
Okay.
In this map here,
I'm bad at math, so I just wanted to make sure.
Because we were talking about because they're
reiterate that I like the pointy ones.
Okay.
3 billion years ago, 2 billion years ago, blah blah blah. That's like ancient history. You could argue that it wasn't really Canada at that time, but this is young stuff. So the map I'm showing you are the volcanic fields, and I have 5 volcanic fields that have erupted in the last 1.8 million years. And there's some significant belts. Now the belts do cross international boundaries, right? So, for example, in the Garibaldi volcanic belt.
Wait, are you saying that Canadian volcanoes are coming into the United States and stealing our volcano jobs?
There have been lava flows that have crossed the border
All right, it's time for a wall with
without-
between the U.S. and Canada. This is
with-
unacceptable.
without any stopping at the border patrol. Who knows how many Kinder eggs flew into United States?
The volcano explodes and it just shoots a bunch of Kinder eggs. Children could choke on those small toys. It might have never really ever happened anywhere, but it could happen. You never know.
Yeah. But I don't want to say that the belts, this is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire. So if you look in this map here, we can see plate tectonics, Juan Fuca, and then Pacific Plate, North American Plate. And so a lot of the mountains of British Columbia are the crumple zone with these plates, smashing into each other and subducting. And subduction is typically the process by which you get volcanoes. Now, in this particular map, we have stars, and those are large volcanic complexes, meaning that there are multiple volcanoes there. There's also cinder cones, little triangles, and those are spots where essentially there was some magma that squeezed out. Think of it like a pimple, right? It just basically erupted.
I was thinking of a pimple.
Yes. They are then and cinder cones typically come into play when a volcanic field is sort of aging, right? When you no longer have magma chambers underneath with significant inflow of energy, and they begin to sort of contract and go into dormant states. You get so if you look, for example, at something like Mauna Kea on Hawaii, a dormant volcano, it has lots of those little cinder cones around it, little zits. Whereas a volcano like Mauna Loa or Kilauea is too active to really have those kind of cones. And we see this today. Also, I will point out that some of the things like the gold fields, Yukon stuff, also are due to tectonics and mineral stuff. But we're going to look at some of these systems here. I want to point out again, there are they're greater than zero number of stars and greater than zero number of triangles. Now we say, well, how recent? Well, if we look at the Volcano Watch in particular, probably the most active are these areas. Here is a case, again, we're looking at British Columbia up to Yukon, and we see this is one of the very active areas, again, in the Volcanic province. We also see, for example, this particular one, Garibaldi Volcanic Belt, that extends down to Mount Baker. And Mount Baker
so Mount Baker's in the Garibaldi Volcanic Belt. That's pretty cool.
Yes, I mean when they drew the line for treaty stuff, the people weren't really
thinking about poor Mount Baker.
Yeah, because it really is part of the rest of the stuff. It kind of belongs
Really
there,
is.
and it is.
Yeah,
Right, Mount
I
Baker
agree.
for me.
I mean, also, they decided on a parallel in a time when that area of the continent hadn't been explored by people reporting to either government. So they had literally no clue what was there, which is also why you get a few little towns that are technically in the U.S., but you can only get to the rest of the U.S. by going through Canada to get to the rest of the U.S.
Like Point Roberts. Have you guys ever heard of Point Roberts?
That's a good
I've
example.
been there.
So
Owen for $5 says, need some yodeling to go along with these volcanoes with a smiley face. I don't think we have any yodeling queued up, but I do appreciate that y'all like the yodeling so much.
It would require one of us to deny that they're transitional volcanoes.
Oh, also, is this volcano on screen pointy enough, Kip? Yes or no? I'm just trying to get like a...
that's those are both good pointy volcanoes.
Okay, so
that's what's pointy for you. Okay, I see it's kind of round.
I like those.
These are cinder cones here for that. Some of the more recent cinder cones in the Mount Ezra volcanic field and the northern British Columbia area. But
I see some. Ian's very nervous in the audience that I will not accept the correction.
Everybody's worried that Kipp is going to be bitch made. Is that what's going to happen? Look, is that the concern?
Kip,
and I also
is several steps
say
above.
Hi to Vishanti.
Oh, hi Vishanti. Kip is several steps above Sal when it comes to like propensity for being bitch made.
Oh, good.
So I don't think he's going to be bitch made.
Phew.
But yes.
Wow.
Volcano Watch. There are volcanoes in Canada.
Does it tell us which ones those are on the
yes,
in the picture?
yes. The particular one it talks about. This is retrieved. The right is Eve Cone, and from the so Eve Cone is in Mount Ezra volcanic field, and the other the right bottom is Center Cone. That was okay. I'm sorry. So this is not Canadian. This is Canadian.
That one's
This is
Canadian,
not Canadian.
but that one is not. But they look a lot alike. I think that's
Yes.
probably what the picture is trying to show us, right?
Yes.
They're like, this volcano looks a lot like this
Yeah,
volcano.
because this is
Yeah.
so this is the authentic Canadian thing. So let's look at some of the things. For example, again in this map, right? And I'm going to point out this map. We're dealing with this zone that extends across the border and down into there. That is the current sort of most volcanic part of Canada. Now, I want to talk about again. These are eruptions in Upper Canada that are either Pleistocene or Eocene volcanoes. So the red triangles are more recent than the orange triangles. But again, you can see that it's going through that zone. Now let's look at actual eruptions, right? Because
Oh, yes.
nice there, and we have prehistoric eruptions, and then quite a number in the Heliocene area. And if you want to know what these things mean, Dapper can tell you what that means. But it's basically beginning around approximately 11,700 years ago. So there's lots of Heliocene volcanoes in Canada, and then it goes back even further. But let's look at actual examples of stuff. One of them probably is it's called the volcano.
What a clever name!
The volcano.
or lava fork volcano.
I thought astronomers were bad at naming things.
There's actually is a whole naming controversy around this whole thing, but that's
Around the volcano?
You mean the volcano
name of the
wasn't a super popular name?
Because someone might say, there's a habit in South California of people saying the I-5 or the Highway 1 as if their Highway 1 is the only one, right? It's a little bit pretentious. So I prefer the Lava Fork volcano. It's a small cinder cone, and this particular cinder cone, you see where it is within British Columbia, and this has a history of relatively recent. In 1906, it was so that's the survey that was trying to figure out what's there in British Columbia, because even though they said this is British Columbia, a lot of people didn't know what was there. Even the First Nations people live in sort of limited spots, because there's lots of British Columbia that no one goes unless they're there to go to see it, right? And so we know that it's
British Columbia is big.
Yes.
So
it's also beautiful, and I highly recommend getting out and exploring it.
I will second that.
As Kipp may have learned from yesterday, Canada is large.
True, yeah. Yeah. But also, having been to British Columbia, I will say that I do like it there, at least when it's not covered in snow.
Or fire.
Or fire, yeah. When it's like a normal, not frozen or burning hellscape.
Burning, yeah.
Because those are the two main kinds of hellscape, in case you're not up on your hell lore. It's burning fire or frozen icy swamp. Although it's not much of a swamp, but still, it's very close to a hellscape often in either end. But when you're in between those times, quite nice.
Now, this particular volcano erupted, we know in 1800. It's had several eruptions in the last 360 years. And it's also possible that it erupted about 150 years ago. But no one noticed it, right? It was. I mean, we know.
So polite.
Yes, we know. For there are actual things where you can say, yes, this erupted. It flowed. There was a notable flow there They can date those flows and very quite accurately. And and yes, this is even young enough for young Earth creationists to say that the dates are. Not that I'm. So in fact, it's
This is
possible
a
that
stream for everyone.
it had Pohoi lava, right, that come out there, and it's a very obvious thing. This is probably one of the more recent ones, but again, there are reports of first of people noting this as like glowing in the area, but the assumption was that it was a fire, right? Because as Kipp points out, British Columbia.
It's usually it's often on fire. Yes.
I mean, by often is an understatement. I mean, I think if you want to look at, I'll bring up here. If you want to look at the current fires.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Yes, please.
What is a Pohoi lava flow?
So Pohoi lava is a type of, it's a very sort of ropey type of lava that it's a Hawaiian name here. Ooh. So you get stuff that looks like this.
That's
it's sort
neat.
Of extrudy things. A lot of our volcanic terms are Polynesian, and Hawaiians are part of that Polynesian stuff. So you find, in fact, if you say Pohoi to a number, any sort of things that was Polynesia, it's a triangle between Hawaii, New Zealand, and the Rapa Nui place in what now is also called Easter Island. That triangle, Polynesian triangle, the Polynesians, there's lots of volcanoes, and the Polynesians come with this term. So this term comes from this sort of slow extrusion with this ropey stuff. It's actually quite beautiful to see. And this is contrasting to aha, and aha flows have the more crinkly, crumbly type of rock.
Roshan, a Rip Inside Jokes Keller for 199 has a very good question for Landon.
Sure.
Why does lava on video look so delicious?
It's a good question.
I think part of it is the mineral sheen. So we're looking at here's a photo I know of a colleague that took this in the East Rift Zone, and I was near this spot, but I didn't take this picture. But it's on by Dr. Briggs, and the shiny bit is because you have floats to the top. You get these sort of silicas that float to the top, glass, right? Mm-hmm. And so the very, very, very fresh lava tends to be silvery, right? The red stuff only occurs when the lava is moving and breaking open, right? Because air is cold compared to the temperature of lava.
Yes, that checks out. Yeah.
And so the only time you're going to see lava that's red is when it's moving fast enough that it hasn't formed a crust. But this is fairly fresh lava that's looping around doing its Pohoi thing, and so if you were to take and poke this with a rod, you'd find that silvery thing is just a skin. It's still quite liquid underneath. You do see some red bits here because stuff breaks open, but as soon as this stuff, as soon as this particular material comes in contact with air, it tends to freeze unless it is in a fountain, so it's moving or flowing down the slope. And I will say that this mineral that's on the top, this silver sheen, is a sign of very, very fresh lava. That begins to oxidize, and when it cools down to the point where it doesn't kill things, bacteria lands on it and has a party. They have bacteria rave parties where the bacteria goes and says, "Oh boy, fresh mineral stuff," and goes to town. So
Landon, would you say that fresh lava is the ultimate forbidden snack?
It could be. It certainly is. It can be quite. So one of the things that if you get this glass surface on the top, it becomes quite slick, and you can fall. But also because the outer surface freezes first, it gets all the crinkling and cracking. So you can see back here a little bit farther, it starts to break up because the inside contracts, breaks the outside, and so when you're in the area where the flow is cooling down for a couple of days, you basically hear broken glass shattering, because it really is glass that's shattering. It's clink, clink,
Wow.
clink, clink, things, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is not annealing.
Oh, we have a couple things. Chesh's most loyal backstabber, who's been a member for 40 months, says, "They're only volcanoes if they come from the Campania region of Italy. Otherwise, they're just angry mountains."
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
All volcanoes need googly eyes.
I mean, really, most physical objects need googly eyes, if I'm being honest.
Agreed. Yes.
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 Nurse for $5 says, extremely off topic. Charlie Kirk was put in an event while answering a question about slug thrower violence. If I believed in karma, that is correct. He also is on record as saying, unfortunately, we just need to accept there are going to be some gun deaths in order to keep the Second Amendment. So, thank you for your sacrifice.
Thank you for your sacrifice. Yes.
But
back
onto the topic.
Volcanic fields. Walking in them is quite a So let's talk about this particular spot within maybe a couple days would be relatively easy to walk over. Right, the crust is enough. Rock is a pretty good insulator, and the crust is enough that you're not going to just sink in and melt.
And lose.
Also, like the rock is dense and you're not, so you'll float on top. So I don't recommend swimming in lava. It's also really hard because you're going to be on top. It's like swimming in sand. You're not going to get down into the sand very much unless you really try. But the problem, of course, is that as it cools down, you now have this really warm, rich mineral thing that the bacteria is landing on. Because again, you're talking about, in the case of the Polynesia, very, very bio-rich stuff. So now you have this very petri dish with all this broken glass, and if you flip or you're not careful and you don't have knee pads, if you kneel down to take a sample and cut yourself, you're not only cutting yourself very easily, but you're also getting infected. So the whole protocol of no matter what, if you take a tumble, you need medical attention right away because you can get bad infections.
Wow.
So back to
That's
a little
wild.
bit of volcanic safety thing. We on the Volcano show, we do a lot of stuff about volcanic safety there. But back to the thing about the mineral composition is mostly it's about 40%. Typically, somewhere between 40 and 70% is silicon dioxide, but there's also other good minerals in it. It's a very nice minerally bit of stuff. So back to so did that answer your question about what?
Yes, that was very thorough. Thank you.
Yeah.
Landon is nothing if not thorough.
There is in this area.
I appreciate
the lava lakes here for this region are actually quite nice. It's a nice area to go and see. The volcano cinder cone is about it's actually a little bit north of the British Columbia Alaska border, but it's easier to get to it from British Columbia.
Oh, okay.
And it has
From
a couple
British
of
Columbia,
nice,
it's easier to
it
get
has
to
a
it.
pair of nice lakes that the volcanic thing sort of cut off.
Cool.
So it's quite possible. There's debate as to when this thing last erupted, but again, people in the area didn't really notice it. It's been there certainly are records in 1904 on the survey that said, "Hey, this is a fairly fresh lava thing," and they talked to people around there and said, "Oh, we didn't notice it," but it is what it is.
The volcano is quite remote, though. I'm getting here.
Yeah.
That
It's it's around 1600, 650 meters. It's not a high peak, but it is a nice.
There's just not a lot of people there.
Yes.
Well, Landon, as we said on Tuesday, we accept volcanoes with all body types, and all volcanoes are valid. So they can have a low peak, they can be thick, rounded, pointy, as long as they've got the key aspects of being a volcano, which I assume is a magma chamber or something, then they count.
Yes. Now,
I don't know if I'm still there yet, but
this particular one, the base, the cinder cone itself is around 100 meters above the base area, and we do see that it had volcanic ash deposits. It also had volcanic bombs. So bombs are basically, spatter blobs of stuff being ejected from a vent. And we see, we have volcanic bombs up to about a half meter in size. Basically, these little volcanic droplets that spew around. But anyway, it's a nice area. Now there's another one called Ruby Mountain, and Ruby Mountain claims to have a eruption in 1898. That's one of the things that's cited, that miners, said that there was this glow of an eruption. The only problem is that we haven't found any lava from an eruption. So if there was a glow, it might have been a vent that opened up, because we'll see sometimes in Kilauea that there'll be a hole where gas will break through, and at night you can see the glow from magma down below. So it's quite possible that what they saw was essentially there was a gas pocket that broke up on the surface, and they could see the glow of magma down there. There wasn't any lava. So while the Wikipedia stuff sort of says, you're just a bunch of miners are making stuff up, it is in a active volcanic area, and it's quite possible that that there was basically a outgassing from magma down below, and where they were seeing the result of that on November 8th. There's a debate about what is an eruption. Right? You might say, well, isn't that obvious? Well, no. There's many types of eruptions. Some can be from merely water vapor rapidly boiling near hot rocks, and you get a steam explosion, to the classic, lots of lava flows around in the area. But this is one of the other thing. Also, this particular mountain here, however, is, I guess, Tisek is how you pronounce it, perhaps. It is a.
Don't ask me.
Do we know what the language? Oh, there's a pronunciation guide. CX.
Oh.
CX.
CX.
there you go.
Yes. Oh, there it is. CX. I'm sorry. That is true. Trademark Canada. So this particular volcano did have a history there. It did have an unfortunate eruption, and it probably is it had eruptions in a particular time where it actually had a fairly deadly eruption. This particular volcano itself was responsible for a number of deaths. It probably is the deadliest, one of the deadliest volcanic eruptions that occurred. It's part of this particular mountain, like this mountain here, Mount Meager Massif, in that region has had some major
that's near Pemberton.
eruptions. Yes.
Wow.
And this particular volcano, again, it's in this part of the Ring of Fire set, had a particularly violent eruption that killed a number of people about 2,600 years ago. It had ash flows. It's had, if you look at this chart here, it's had eruptions over the last 2 million years. And it's had, at least 57 events in the last 2 million years, and about 20. It was about, I think it's around 2,200 years ago, that it had an eruption that actually killed probably a couple thousand people. And we have worked there.
Wow.
It actually had ash falls going into Alberta. It had a particularly bad, so probably it's probably the most deadly one. It had a massive eruption about 2,400 years ago, and it was probably on the order of like a Mount St. Helens eruption. And we know that it sent a massive column about 20 kilometers into the atmosphere, and had flows as far away as Alberta. It had flows that were impacted what is now Vancouver, and it probably was responsible for a number of deaths. It probably is the most deadly of things, because Indigenous people have tales about this particular eruption. And so if you say, have volcanoes killed anyone in Canada? Well, the First Nation people will say that they were definitely affected. Now, this one, this particular volcanic complex is not expected to erupt. It would be surprising if it erupted in your lifetime, but if you look over a geologic period, it is actually still quite active. And has quite a number of stuff. So this and that particular mountain itself may not be the thing. Again, the last major event was about 2,400 years ago.
Real quick, Canis lupus fem ilior eris for $2 says, rest in piss, Charlie Kirk, 1993 to 2025. The only source I've seen actually reporting that is accurate is the current king of the former United States, which is a source I do not find to be reliable. So
there are
on
reports
Associated Press
from New York and the press. Yeah, it's
all right, then.
more official now. Yeah.
Oh, it does say President Trump says, though. So
No, there's my Discord is like spamming it right now, and they're checking like NBC confirmed it, and there's like Donald Trump also posted about it. But yeah, there's a few sources at this point.
Okay, so
AP News.
So we've looked at 3 volcanoes in British Columbia that have erupted in recent times, and the one 100 years ago that had a number of deaths of First Nations people. But in general, you talk about the types of volcanoes that are found in Canada, and particularly in British Columbia. One of the best of the Hawaiian.
That's another picture of the Eve cone.
Is Eve cone, and let's go and look at Eve cone here. Let's see where it is.
Now, Kipp, is this going to be your favorite volcano because it's about the Bible?
But no,
Okay.
just mostly because of the shape of it. But I think I'm partial also to the volcano just because of the name.
Yeah, the name is pretty good.
That's pretty.
Eve cone. Now, it is not clear whether or not the tree of knowledge of good and evil was nearby, but you never know.
I'm pretty sure I heard that it was in like Jackson, Missouri, or something. I'm pretty sure that's where the Garden of Eden was. So
yeah, but that's a really good example. You're talking about a classic volcano, and you want to see a classic volcano, Eve cone in northwestern British Columbia, and the Cassiar district. It's a really good one, and it's quite a pretty one. And so these are sort of the Hawaiian style eruptions. Now there are phreatic eruptions. Again, this is where groundwater meets hot rock, and you get a steam explosion. And we had one of those events in Yellowstone, right? But one thing you have to say is that even though British Columbia likes to catch on fire, it's also wet. There's water up there. It's the Pacific Northwest, and it does have rain, and that water can come in contact with lower magma and create basically steam explosions. And then you can get sort of steam explosions. Also, will have some magnetic bits flying out of it. And so those are there. I mean, one of the things is that for example, this particular the Walsgrave Provincial Park, which I highly recommend going to, has some areas where again it's really good water, and it's in the and has some of these phreatic sites. You'll also see that those will be associated with thermal hot springs, right? If you guys say what's the thermal hot spring? Why is it hot? Well, there's water that's working its way down to hit hot rocks that comes back up, and it carries with it lots of minerals from the magma. Now, one of the things that can be bad is that also that explosion can also come with also from outgassing from the magma, carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide and things like that. That's where you get that rotten egg smell in some of those hot springs. But those have known to have eruptions. Then there's sort of the subglacial ones, and these are the cranky ones, where Canada does have glaciers. Despite
We have it all.
all attempts for changing our climate, the fact that we have kind of, you might say, broken the planet, there are still glaciers in Canada. And Mount Garibaldi is one of those that has glaciers where what will happen is the volcano won't erupt, but the magma will get close enough to the surface that it begins to melt the bottom of the glacier. And particularly what's on a mountain, that gets bad because eventually you start to get melted water that is, water melt from the glacier, but it's underneath. And on a mountain, it'll work its way down the slope to the point where it reaches the end of the glacier. And now it breaks out as a lahar, basically a violent hot rock steam ejection, because the glacier has pushed down, created high pressure. It's been melted by magma stuff, and it flows out in this flood at the base of a glacier that roars down the mountain. So those are cases where things like Pyramid Mountain is one of those places that go. The Huda Mountain, another really nice spot. I highly recommend. There's a case that has a lot of these. It's a potentially active stratovolcano, and Pyramid Mountain, which, if you know about pointed stuff, Kipp, I would say
very
there's your
Pointy.
Yeah.
there's your pointy bits.
For $2, Mikhail
Brilliant.
Dominiak says, those witches from Etsy sure be working quickly. Yeah, maybe witchcraft does work.
There's also, but anyways, there's a number of places where this happens, these subglacial things. And then, of course, there's submarine, right? Because at various times, there's been bits of Canada that's been shallow to oceanic stuff. And so you get, break off the coast, you can get eruptions occurring in the ocean. And then, of course, there are some of the classic ones of the more violent eruptions, fast-moving streams of hot volcanic gas, that poured on the slopes. This is sort of, if you think like the Italian Mount Vesuvius type of event. That's the Italian type of eruptions. And then, of course, there's the classic volcanic stuff where you've got magma conduit, and so this is, for example, Mount Meager is a really good example of classic volcanic stuff where magma produces lava and it piles up. Now, these tend to be more pointy because the water basically erodes it, so it hasn't erupted there, but they've had things where again these type of eruptions haven't really happened in Canada recently, except for that one about 24 years ago where a number of people were killed. So I would say those are the types of volcanoes that are there.
Wow.
And again, if you look at particularly in Western Canada, and you look at the list of stuff, there are plenty of volcanoes, particularly in there. There are volcanoes that have erupted, and we definitely know they erupted at the turn of the 1800s to the 1900s, around that time period. There are volcanoes that are still considered active. The tectonic forces are still undergoing, and the subduction creates this crumple zone. So the presence of all the mountains in British Columbia, plus the action of the plate sliding under it, and water is also involved in that. The water from the ocean being driven down as the North American plate is being pushed underneath British Columbia to make it crumply and bumpy. It also brings on water, and that water also helps in the process of coming to the surface and creating eruptions. Because normally magma is rock. It's just in liquid or semi-liquid form, and nor that rock would, as behaving as gravity, our gravity will say wants to go down. Why does it come up? Primarily, it's dissolved gases, right? So inside the magma, besides having liquid rock, are gases that are under such tremendous pressure that they're in liquid form. They basically liquefied. It's been compressed to the liquid form, but as the magma approaches the surface, the pressure drops. When the pressure drops, that gas that's in liquid form boils, right? It reaches the boiling point. And when it reaches the boiling point, the stuff from liquid goes to gas and pops a bubble. And we can sense this with seismic instruments of these bubble popping. That's what we call harmonic tremors, where you just hear this sort of fizzy boiling of magma. And that's a pressure line that causes those gases then drive magma up. And if it's able to get enough pressure to break through the surface, you begin to have an eruption. And if it's even more force, that magma comes out on top and becomes lava. So as long as there's gases that are boiling to push it up, you'll get a volcanic eruption. It'll stop eventually because it runs out of gas. Now, if it's an active volcano, there's usually a source of energy coming underneath a magma chamber, so there's new material. So the stuff on top, you get an eruption or cinder cone, it goes bloop 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 for a while. That's a technical term, bloop bloop bloop. And the magma at the top loses a lot of its gas, loses its fizz, becomes stale, and the eruption stops and it sinks. But there's magma underneath that has, under higher pressure, that still have those dissolved gases. So the magma chamber will turn over, and the new magma will come to the top, where it'll begin to boil again and start the process over again. And that process of that magma chamber turning over and causing a new eruption, new fizz, in a place like Kilauea can happen on a matter of days. In a place like the Garibaldi volcanic belt, that can happen over thousands of years, right, in terms of cycling. It depends upon how fast material is coming into the magma chambers to cause it to refuel. Now, the cinder cones, again, these small triangles, tend to be spots where the magma chamber, or whatever magma is under there, is cooled and congealed, and it's forced gas out and get these gas pockets that pop and will bring with it some semi-liquid material. Sometimes it's just a gas explosion, but it'll sort of outgas for the spot and it's done. So the cones tend to be sort of, in particular older volcanic areas, tend to be sort of a done once and it's over. Whereas the stars are places where there are magmatic chambers. They're somewhere between dormant to active, and certainly, there will be more eruptions in British Columbia and some in Yukon as well. It's less likely to see in Alberta or Northwest Territory. Those the whatever volcanism there has been sort of subsided. If the volcanoes there are between dormant and dead, whereas British Columbia is active there. So earthquakes, definitely. Steam explosions, hot springs. There's some really nice hot springs that you can go to. Again, from a safe point of view, hot spring is relatively safe to do if you understand hot spring safety and such. But as I said, lots of volcanoes and pictures of stuff there. There are some really good, good examples. This particular one here, Dex is probably the most recent ones that have had events in the last 190 plus or minus 15 years. It involved the eruption that they estimate killed about 2,000 people, but that was around 2,400 years ago. And there are some very interesting legends by the First Nations people about this area. They do remember those things, and volcanologists are well to pay attention to these tales and legends, because through those things you can learn something about what might have happened. Again, Kip, just like we know that there's folklore regarding text, and while they are maybe not be literal truth, in paying attention to those folklores, you can gain knowledge.
Exactly. Yes, that sounds familiar. Oh.
So
I was going to say one of my favorite hot springs is Halfway Hot Springs, just outside of Nakusp. Because it's free. You just hike down to it. It's a bit of a hike. And it's also located next to an icy cold river, which is fun. And you can go naked if you want, which is also pretty great. So
there are naked people in Canada, apparently.
yeah,
allegedly.
many in the Kootenays.
Usually it's me.
That's where they all are. So
I'll mention this. Say that the First Nations name for this mountain is where the fire ran out. Right?
oh, neat.
So there were people that saw their interpretation of lava. There was a significant lava field, had an eruption, which was again killed a number of people. It was the deadliest geological disaster in Canada, recorded history, and second worst natural disaster in Canadian history by death toll. Natural disaster. We're not talking about ships blowing up in Halifax Harbor or things like that.
So yeah, that's the first one I always think of.
That's a
Unnatural disaster.
Yeah,
But
that's an unnatural disaster.
Yes.
That's a interesting. But as I say, it is an area there, and there are hot springs in this area, and other things. So yes,
Cool.
Canada does have volcanoes, and from a geological kind of point, when you're talking about things in the late 1800s to early 1900s, that's very recent in terms. There are active fields.
Even recent in history terms, never mind like paleontology or geology terms.
That's very true. Yes.
But much of the mineral wealth of the mineral and gem wealth of Canada, in the Eastern Province, comes from a very rich history over several billion years. That are
volcanic
there,
activity.
in fact, people.
But
they
sort of petered themselves out over there, eh? Is
geologists find very good active employment by looking at the top surface and estimating what being underneath, and so there are finds that are coming on under some of the First Nations people have been working with geologists to assay what is in their indigenous lands, to understand the wealth that might be there. Question of what you do with it is a different story. And the diamond systems, a lot of the carbon plumes in Upper Canada have been mined, but not completely. And again, if you have a diamond saw, like there's a common thing in either rock cutting or other things, or so if you have or wood cutting, you get a diamond saw. Chances are that's Canadian diamond dust. The other thing
they're even taking our diamonds,
or Australian. That's another.
Oh, okay. Speaking of Australia, Jessica, the Transmetal Alchemist, for $5 reduce, says, on a personal note, I've been offered a promotion at work. You're looking at the new Fresh Convenience Department's 2IC, which stands for Second in Charge. Well, congratulations.
Excellent.
Congrats.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that thing, and congratulations to be second in charge. It's nice because first in charge would get blamed if something goes wrong, or second in charge supports the first in charge. So that can be a nice safe spot. But I hope that second in charge comes with a second in pay too.
Yes, let's hope so.
That there are those bad managers who will give you extra responsibility and
no extra money
for free.
A high school job I had tried that. They were like, "Hey, you want to do a whole bunch more work and be in charge of a lot more stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." Does it come with a pay raise? No. I was like, "Then no, I don't." And then they were like, "But this could be the start of your career." And I'm like, "My career isn't going to be at the grocery store. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen."
Even if it was, why would I want this to be the start of my career when you're already not paying me? That's not a very good start.
Yeah, and I point
Exactly.
out that Chesh is very experienced in there, because if you've ever watched her management of Mert Mart, she does have people that are paid.
I
in
am
that
the
store.
best grocery store owner on the planet.
Wow. And
Wow.
despite never having actually owned a real grocery store.
Hey,
Well,
Should
listen,
say
Mart,
real.
He's as real
what
as it
is
gets.
Say real.
real is relative.
Real means
That's
that
right.
I could go to it and come back with something that would actually give me calories. That's what real would be in this case.
Well, have you tried? Have you ever traveled to Mert Mart?
I can't because it's not real.
Well, if you've never tried, how do you know?
I'm trying right now.
I don't. No, you're not. That's a lie. You're a lie. Dapper's a liar.
We
Confirmed.
have established in
expose
this
you.
stream that Dapper is a liar. I mean,
Dapper's a dirty liar.
Look, the poll
Yes,
agreed
he
with
is.
me, and so since perception is reality,
no. There was one vote that came in after you closed your poll. So
that's not how votes work. I'm sorry, but the poll said that if you don't start pledging $500 a month on my Patreon, you're squelching.
Now, I want to point
I
out.
can live with that.
Landon's desperate to
as-
talk more about the volcano. Sorry, Landon.
I know. I want to put as further evidence. There is actually a memorial lava bed provincial park that you can go and look at stuff. It has nice. You can see essentially lava fields. This is
No, cool.
This is very sort of boily like in nature. Although there's probably a bit of awe in there as well. But
Dapper's
part of
getting
this-
called out for being a VTuber.
At least I'm not a VTuber who says there's no volcanoes in Canada, and if proven wrong, will pledge to a Patreon, and then I don't do it.
Not a VTuber either that says that.
Yeah. So this is where this second cone is located, and also you can see a memorial site of the estimated 2,000 people that were killed by this particular eruption, and so that's why it's called a memorial park, because it's in memory of those First Nations people that died. So it is a park you can visit, and
So
it's
this
governed
is
by the
this is
BC
part
Parks.
of the this is a lava flow from the the eruption that was by Pemberton.
Yes, that's
Oh,
zone,
wow.
right? So
Wow.
it's the source of the eruption, and it
Cool.
also it ended up damming this river and changed its courses as well.
Wow.
But it also had there was also a flood that resulted from that in 1700s that also damaged some villages there. So it is an active volcanic zone. It's safe to go to, and again, as further thing you can see in there, you can see silicones, tree molds. Right. This is another thing. If you know about what a tree mold is.
Oh, what is that? That's cool.
But when lava comes in contact with a tree, well, the tree will burn up. But the tree is cold compared to the lava, so the lava freezes around the tree.
Wow.
And so you get rock that protects it. The tree burns out,
That is
leaving
so cool.
behind the bark, and so you get these tree molds are evidence that. And here's a case of horizontal stuff. So this lava hit
I love
a tree
that.
and it freezes the edge. And rock is a good insulator, so it takes a little while for the tree to burn out, but eventually it does, and leaves behind the mold. And you can see the bark and so forth from it. So it has in this provincial park a number of these tree molds you can go to see. Now, it does if you have an active volcanic flow and vegetation, stay away. Particularly the deadly parts of Hawaiian volcanoes when the lava flows not in a nice caldera but out where there's forests. What happens is the lava comes on top of goes on top of vegetation and ground vegetation and so forth, and it cooks it and it produces methane, and the methane reaches the surface. It's under pressure, and you got high temperature, and the methane explodes. Right, you get methane detonations, and it will send fairly hot rock to liquid stuff over very, very large distances, right? And so if you get a mixture around 5% or 5 to 10% methane, where lavas come on top of vegetation, which in very forested areas is quite common, then you get deadly explosions. So if you're seeing if you're in an area where tree molds are forming, it's not a good area. You stay away from that because of methane. But that's probably in the case like in the current volcano eruptions in Hawaii, it's at a summit called area where there aren't vegetation. It's only when if it flows into vegetation that it becomes a problem. So I would recommend if you want to visit what is the most recent Canadian volcanic activity. You want to learn some of the history. You want to see things like tree molds and portway flows and look at the actual cinder cone. Again, it's all safe, but this is a thing as well as a memorial for the estimated 2,000 people that died around 25 years ago. I would highly recommend going to this provincial park.
Now,
I'm looking up
Landon,
now.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
What order of magnitude worth of years or so would you say we should expect to see the next Canadian volcanic eruption in? Like 10 years, 100 years, 1,000 years, 10,000 years?
I would say somewhere between 100 and 1,000 years. Now, there have been, there was a volcanic, a earthquake swarm in the Garibaldi region. We had in like 2011. But earthquake swarms are just magma moving, rock cracking, not necessarily a precursor to an immediate eruption. Just like, for example, Mount Baker had a significant volcanic swarm in 1975, but it never reached the surface. So swarms in themselves does not mean that a eruption is imminent. However, I would say from this region and the general complex, again, we're talking about the complex being, go back to here, this Garibaldi belt complex. I would estimate that somewhere, it's likely somewhere in the 100 years to 1,000 years would be the guess. Now, that's a wild guess. That's even more guessy than, for example, when Chesh, Mani, and I make our estimates of what Paley is going to do the next month. Right? This is even wilder guesses of things. So I would say I would be really, really surprised if there was an eruption in this volcanic belt in my lifetime. But it can happen. I would say that within 100-ish years to a couple thousand years, definitely, given the intervals of stuff happens. There's no, it doesn't erupt by clockwork,
Right.
but the forces have gone there. The Guadalupe plate and Pacific plates are still subducting. There still is lots of earthquakes in the area. There still is volcanic pressure. There still is thermal systems. Also, steam explosions are also a possibility as well. But what you want to do is to monitor the volcanoes. You want to have seismographs. You want to have tilt meters. You want to have gas meters, particularly in areas that are hot springs, to sort of detect. Why do you want to do that? Well, the gases that come out of vents, even if there's not magma nearby, if they're not lava nearby, will tell you what's boiling. Right? It'll tell you what gases are boiling, and the pressures, how deep the boiling is occurring, and then you'll get these harmonic tremors, basically bubbles popping in magma. That'll kind of tell you what's going on. It's when that bubble popping starts moving, right? When you start sensing, first of all, that the area where you get seismic activity is heading up towards the surface. And the second thing you see is the gases that come out of the surface are changing because now it's lower pressure, so different gases are boiling. That's when you know that stuff is potentially on the way, but no guarantee. So I think it's a phrase to say that it would be nearly impossible for us to be caught by surprise,
Right.
assuming we have monitoring. in the Garibaldi region, because there is a reasonable number of seismographs in the area. Particularly, people in Vancouver kind of want to know what's going on.
So
Other
Lynn,
areas
oh,
in
sorry.
British Columbia could have an eruption, but they're less monitored.
Lynn, I want to put forward an alternative explanation for all of this, offered by one Roger Spur.
Oh yes.
So Roger Spur
Oh.
is under the
Oh,
impression
no.
that volcanoes are
Roger.
actually the fossilized or semi-fossilized, I guess, remains of large organisms, and that the volcanoes specifically are the anuses, and that what you call lava is actual fecal matter coming out of the anus of a now long-dead colossal creature. What do you have to say in response to the highly respected scholar Roger Spur?
Well, Dapper, you had one major failure in that you did not use a feather to point this out.
Well,
And
I don't
therefore,
grow
I can-
feathers. I'm a Ceratosaurus. So this
I-
seems species.
Well, you didn't. You could get a feather from one of your feathered friends, but until you have a feather pointing it out, you're not Roger.
Okay, I'm just reporting Roger's excellent scholarship and chemical analysis and whatnot.
It is excellent. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm just wondering what the
Has
response
Roger-
is.
Has Roger ever weighed in on ancient Hebrew, or is that out of his wheelhouse?
I'm not I am not as up on what Roger's doing as some others. So I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. You've probably paid more attention, Dapper, than I have.
So I know he has touched a little bit on the Bible. He seems to be a really big fan of the Nag Hammadi scriptures. But that's about all I
Yes,
can
aren't we
say.
all?
But the Nag Hammadi scriptures, if I remember correctly, are surviving examples are Coptic, aren't they?
Yes.
So
That's true.
I don't think that would. So I'll say this: I highly doubt that Roger Spur knows Coptic. I can't rule it out though, because I can't say that he doesn't. But I've not seen any indication that he has any particular interest in Hebrew in particular. So I'll say that. But what I will say though is it does sound like Big Volcanology is currently dodging the lava is poop question. And this is a bad look for Big Volcanology, Landon. So I don't know.
You never know, but it is. I mean, Pohoyo could be like really runny diarrhea.
All
There
right.
is a lot of analogies to eruptions and taco shits. So I
That's
think
true.
that there is some kind of like through line here.
But I would say from a Hawaiian volcanic point of view, the rocks are Pele's children. They're not sewage, and Hawaiian culture would take a very dim view of saying that they're poo, right?
So you're saying that we should toss Roger into a volcano on behalf of the Hawaiians?
Well, that's an interesting question because by the way, there's no records of Hawaiians doing sort of the sacrifice thing. I would ask you, Dapper, where did this meme about virgin sacrifice volcano? Where did that come from?
I don't
Is there
actually
any
know.
That is-
record?
that
I
is a
can't
good
see
question.
much of it before like Hollywood racist depictions of Pacific Islanders. So I don't know,
Probably,
but if I
right?
had to guess, I think it's just Hollywood racism.
So it
But,
might be a
so-
meme that. Go ahead, please go ahead.
No, I was going to say just to bring this back full circle. This all started because Maya suggested that maybe in order to stop the province from burning down, we should throw a virgin into a volcano here in Canada, which prompted my questions about wow, would I even do that? Are there volcanoes that I can go to here in Canada to do that? And it sounds to me, Landon, that you're telling me that probably not, because none of them are going to be spewing fire anytime soon. So there we go.
And
I feel like my instincts were right on this.
So And I would not be surprised if people have had some things regarding offerings regarding eruptions. I'll tell you, in Polynesian culture and Hawaiian culture, the notion of throwing things at a volcano goddess like Pele
Is rude.
very
That's-
rude.
Yeah.
I'm
What-
sorry, you say, Chesh, you were saying?
It's usually rude to throw things at people. That's fair, right?
So what about
Or anything.
liquor offerings? Those are usually left in the path of an eruption, right?
So what I have experienced with Hawaiians is that they bring offerings to Pele.
Right.
And the Polynesian culture throughout Polynesia has this notion of treating visitors with more than typical care you might find in Western regions, especially if they feed you. If you are being fed by a Maori group or a Hawaiian group or Polynesian group, they have accepted that they are responsible for your well-being. It is an honor as well as a sharing. And there are legends, for example, in Hawaii, where they'll talk about a village, and this old woman comes to the village and merely asks for some water, and the villagers say, "Oh, get away, old woman! Don't bother us. We're busy. Go away!" Right? And so she goes to the next village, where those people, being taught proper Polynesian etiquette, say, "Yes, please, come and have some water. And by the way, we're cooking some yams, and we just had some steamed fish. Can we give you some? Will you share these bounties with us?" And so she sits there and has a feast, and they pack her up with a basically a tea leaf. They wrap stuff in as a care package and give her more water and tell her she's welcome anytime. Now later on, Madame Pele goes wandering, and her lava comes down the mountain, and the village that was mean to her gets overrun by lava. And the village that was nice to her, the lava diverts around. Until and children are taught this even in modern days. And as one of the guys I remember that was bringing offering there, he says, "I know it's a volcano, but you guys have your Tooth Fairy and your Easter Bunny and your Santa Claus. Give us this, right? This is our thing." And what Hawaiians around in areas even as far away as the Marquesas will do is they will take things that are village of significance, like a pot, a child's tooth, a bone of an honored relative that has died. They will wrap these things in tea leaves, and they'll also bring some liquid and some food. And when they come to the volcano, they share it, right? They will. If you're there and you're not a jerk and you're kind of cool with things, they'll offer you things like, for example, whiskey. Currently, Pele's favorite whiskey is Seattle Copperworks whiskey. It's an excellent whiskey that you can find in Seattle and Capitol Steps. And they will open the bottle of whiskey and they'll share it, right? And they'll drink because you're sharing it with Pele. So you'll consume about maybe a third of the bottle. And they also are known to have certain herbal substances that they partake in, and they will share those with people around the area as well as food. And so it's this feast, but then the stuff is wrapped up and left to Pele, especially if there's a lava flow nearby, so that she can partake of it too. So the idea is that you show this is good stuff, right? And so I've had some really nice whiskey shared with me from there. Again, it's not throwing stuff at the volcano. It's not even like virgin sacrifice. That would be more than rude. Also, I would say that sometimes, for example, there's a hockey team in Hawaii. Their team is out of Kailua Kona. It is interesting because you'll see the goaltenders, Polynesian goaltenders are, well, if you know Polynesian people.
Is this an ice hockey team?
Yes, yes.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they tend to be, the goalies tend to like take up most of the net because of the
They're big. Yeah.
they're big, and they have, I mean, it's a kind of a thing people come in. It's a pretty good spot because it's warm, and so they have to. The ice is if you're environment where it's like 30 and it's 30 Celsius, and high humidity, the ice is not the best, but they do it anyway because it's fun. And every year, before the team, has its first puck drop, they will take or actually at the first puck drop, that puck is preserved and taken to Pele and offered to her along with a number of herbs and some liqueur as a thank you for them starting their new hockey season. It's a fun spot. I would highly recommend. Again, you're not talking NHL. You won't see a Stanley Cup team, but it is fun. It's also a good way to get out of the warm, humid air. And again, they will bring their food, their drink, and they'll put the first puck there for Pele to enjoy.
Awesome.
That is awesome.
So Kipp, have I convinced you?
Yes. Well,
that there are volcanoes in Canada.
Yes. So thank you.
Even some close by.
Landon, I am sufficiently convinced, but I still, as I said, if there's virgins that if there's, we're kind of out of luck if that's the way.
Does it have to be
the fires here
volcano?
in BC?
I mean,
the idea. I just assumed the idea was that you throw the virgin into the fire. So maybe that's my bad. But
Kipp, may I offer a more Polynesian suggestion?
Certainly.
Canada has some amazing beers, right?
That's true. Yes.
Good beer,
and
not the crap
give
stuff.
that to the sleepy volcanoes.
And take a really good poutine that has been that's because there's poutine and there's a really good poutine.
Really good
poutine.
Yes, that's true.
Some beer and substances that are legal in Canada, and go to the provincial park and enjoy them and share them with other people, and then respectfully leave the rest near a volcano as a offering to the volcano. That's the way to show respect, but make sure the beer is good stuff, right? That you're willing to share with other people. Make sure the poutine is authentic. You can also put some maple syrup or other things like that. But that's you take things of value from your culture.
Like how 2/3 of these are Quebecois things and not just general Canadian things.
You share with others, and then you then share some with the volcanic system. That's a good time.
We have a couple things to read here. Josh McGee's for $5 says, for the goal, or in parentheses, ease, for the goalies, I don't think we're hitting the goal this time, but I also don't think we need it because I don't think either Kipp or Chesh are particularly inclined to curse about volcanoes.
I didn't even no, not so much. Oh, was it an unleash goal?
Yes.
So it was an unleash goal.
I figured once you realize that you would owe me $500 for the rest of one of our lives.
Everybody knows that's not happening. So for all the right reasons.
Get a lawyer at this point.
Yeah, I encourage you to. Okay. It's probably the best way to go.
Be sure to hire a Canadian barrister. That would be probably the.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Do that.
Also, Jessica, the Transmetal Alchemist, who's been a member for 5 months at the Tetchpod level, says, "Thank you for this highly informative presentation." Well, thank you for listening.
Yes.
So, are there any questions we'll have regarding Canadian volcanoes?
Yeah, let's open it up to a Q&A.
Volcanoes, or maybe even just Canada in general, because we have some authentic Canadians.
Well, Landon, why don't you unshare the screen, and we'll go back to the 4-person layout. And then I think what we'll do for priorities is we will prioritize panel member questions, followed by super chat questions, followed by if you have a question and you're not inclined to super chat it, feel free to just tag me with @DapperDinosaur. Yeah, that'll be that.
Meanwhile, I will have it's from Mad Dog Distillery moonshine liquor with apple pie spicing, right?
Did Lyndon,
that looks
were
really good.
taxes paid on that bottle of liquor?
Yes, they actually were.
Then it's not moonshine.
There is. It's moonshine apple pie. That's what it actually
Well,
is.
it's grain liquor apple pie that's been mislabeled as moonshine because,
That's
as
true,
I
that's
think
true.
is unarguable, in order to be moonshine, it has to be illegally produced.
It is. I mean, it's not. It is not pine cone liquor, but it is actually pretty good. So I'm going to have.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, apple pie grain liquor is quite good, regardless of legality.
So, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. All I have, I didn't have time to grab anything.
I have some rum for later.
because I was shoving my
By the way,
face full of pasta. So
I do appreciate that
I have
we're at
water.
8%, but I think we could do perhaps a little bit more.
No,
People
Lyndon,
feel inclined.
what country has more volcanoes in North America? The most volcanoes in North America is how I'll phrase that. Because Mexico has volcanoes too, Kipp.
Yes. So
Well,
if you
I
count-
knew that because the Incas used to sacrifice virgins on top of the volcanoes.
I thought they did it
In
on top of their temples, but what do I know?
Well, I mean, in both, right?
Also, the Inca weren't in Mexico.
Oh, right. Sorry,
You're thinking of like
those were the Aztecs.
the Aztecs and the
Yes.
Mayans. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
the
from-
Mayans
from-
weren't in.
They were both in
I
Mexico,
guess
just
they
different
were.
parts of
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
The Aztecs were further
Yeah.
south.
Okay. Right.
And so I guess what you're talking about is so in terms of so to understand your question, you're talking about North America.
Yes.
So
So anything I would say
and-
north of
Mexico,
Colombia,
Canada,
Okay.
United States.
but also
So
like
big-
Belize, Panama.
what some people call Central America, is that count?
Yeah, I'll count that. Yep.
And Caribbean counts.
Sure, although I doubt that there's all that many, Caribbean volcanoes.
All those-
So
Right. They're
What
pretty
about the Gulf
tiny.
of Canada?
I'll count it.
But that's what Carney has decided to relabel Gulf of Mexico as Gulf of Canada.
I mean, I think he should just relabel the Hudson Bay the Gulf of Canada, but I mean, okay.
That is true. So
Because it's a bit big
I
for
guess-
a bay. Let's be honest here.
Yeah. Now, Hawaii is not part of North America, right?
Correct.
So we're
I agree.
we're excluding that sort of thing. So within and erupting other way, it's also the question is erupting means sort of thing that's actively spewing.
Well, I didn't say how many erupting volcanoes. I just said which country has the most volcanoes in North America.
So do you count extinct,
No, let's go with
As well
dormant
as-
or erupting.
dormant, erupting? Well,
Or I suppose dormant or active.
Nicaragua has, for example, or Guatemala would be there because Guatemala actually has 2 actively erupting volcanoes right now, and they have. If you go with Nicaragua has 1 active erupting with 3 that are in unrest, and so you'll see that there are also plenty of dormant volcanoes in central Mexico. But the United States probably has by volume a number of probably the record number of volcanoes. In the area, for example, that you're in, Dapper, you actually have one of the more recent volcanic eruptions where lava went push, right?
Yeah, that's true.
It only is that you'd have Mount Lassen and Mount St. Helens in terms of you're talking about continental United States. But if you're talking about sheer number of volcanoes, the question is, does Alaskan Peninsula count as North America?
I would think so, wouldn't it?
I mean, continentally, it is, although
Yeah.
that extrusion out there. So I would say the United States does because of between Alaska and the Pacific Northwest, it has sheer volume of area, right? You're talking about area next to the Pacific Ring of Fire. I would say close second would be Mexico.
So once again,
And
just like with COVID deaths, USA is number one.
yes,
job,
although
team.
Way to
We
go.
did it,
Again,
everybody.
the question is, does Alaskan Peninsula, right?
Oh,
I
that
think
counts.
Alaskan Peninsula is counts, right?
Oh, yeah, I agree.
That's right. Now, if you talk about actively erupting, probably Guatemala usually is number one in the North American set. Sometimes Nicaragua becomes number one because it kind of depends, because Nicaragua has more active and volcanoes on unrest. But then at that point, going on rest, you have a bunch of stuff in the Alaskan Peninsula, Aleutian Islands and Alaskan Peninsula that would compare with those. But again, the notion of what is erupting is a term that's a little bit hard. It's like,
Are you
what
saying
is
that there's
transitional?
are you saying that there's like nuance and complexity in the field of volcanology, and it's not just a simple black and white question about all these things?
Yes. So there are actual terms about the current state of volcano and tests, whereas erupting is kind of like kind.
Hmm.
It can be vague, right?
Would you say it's sort of like pornography in that you know it when you see it?
Definitely, and it's also a question of how long do you wait, right? Because Kilauea is erupting, is an erupting volcano. That the eruption phase started on Christmas Eve of last year. It is episodic. Things were on our 32nd episode, where lava coming out lasts for about 12 hours in between, maybe up to 2 weeks between these episodes. So, and it has every chance of having another episode coming up soon. So I would say that's actively erupting, right?
Right.
Now, and there are volcanoes like Stromboli in Italy. Stromboli and Etna are permanently erupting, right? Stromboli is called the lighthouse of the Mediterranean and it was used because it's a glowing thing with a lava pit that's there, kind of in constant set of things. There are things like on the other side of the Ring of Fire, Mount Erebus in Antarctica, is also continuously erupting. So there are volcanoes that are quite active. We live on a very wiggly, wobbly, erupty planet, right? That volcanoes are not this harbinger of doom. There actually are a renewal process for ground, and while yes, they might cook the ground that goes on, the result is a incredibly rich soil environment for plants a couple of years later. So right now, there are 47 volcanoes erupting right now.
Oh, wow.
Probably, if you talk about how many of those have active, like you can see active red stuff, I would say that's probably in about 20 of those. In 2025, we've had 56 eruptions. So some of the volcanoes erupted and stopped erupting. 2024, we had 65. Now, in the Eocene area, we have 857 eruptions. We have 561 that have been confirmed where people said yes, that erupted. It's not like that one Canadian volcano where they might or might not have an eruption. There are 561 that people have observed, recorded.
Now,
Since
which volcano is Rodan hiding in? And are we worried about that volcano erupting, releasing Rodan?
I think the chances are as bad as the Hawaiian volcano releasing thetans or whatever.
Oh, so it's like 100%.
So a
Satan's
non,
is the
I was going to say
Scientology.
a non 0%.
Right,
So
because the Satan's being killed in Hawaii billions of years ago. Sorry, trillions of years ago is definitely real.
could be.
So
Right.
new eruptions, that's another question about, a volcano that was not erupting that entered in. So saying Mount Etna erupting is like, yeah, whatever else is new, right? And Kilauea is one of the most active volcanoes, so saying it's erupting is nothing new. We're talking about new eruptions where they said, oh, that just started an eruption, right? Because it had been dormant or no one knew it was there. Between 2010 and 2024, we've had an average of 35 new erupting volcanoes, right? So our volcanoes that are dormant become active because of various changes, and that's a common thing. The typical year average is around 79 eruptions. So
Hmm.
when you hear a volcano erupting, it's like saying it's raining someplace or British Columbia's on fire. It's like, what else is new?
Yeah.
Right.
It is so we live on a very and volcanoes produce amazing results. There are incredibly rich soils in British Columbia that are because of the volcanic system, right?
Is that why the wine is good?
I would say so. I'd say
All
that,
right.
that the soils are there.
Is certainly a factor.
So yes, but volcanoes are not signs of the end time. They are very common. In fact, it would probably be end times if all of a sudden the volcanoes stopped. That would be.
We'd end up like
That
Mars.
would be terrifying. That would be very, very scary.
Yeah, it's not even part of the list. Jesus's list, I don't think.
All right, but Landon, how does it make you feel to know that the largest known volcano is actually on Mars and not Earth, and that you're probably never going to get to climb it?
Well, it's a function of Mars's tectonic system locked up. So the Hawaiian hotspot, if the Pacific plate, if the Earth's continents had locked up, you would have had a super Mauna Loa created. That volcano would reach into the stratosphere, and it would make Mauna Loa an enormous volcano look small in comparison. So I would say it's a function of the fact that Mars is a lightweight. Its volcanic system locked up. The amount of radioactive material deep in the core is not as intense as what it was in Earth. And for a model of how the solar system formed was reasonably correct. Part of it is due to the fact that Jupiter ripped off a lot of its mass. I mean, Mars is a quite lightweight system, and it does not have the uranium, thorium, items in the core keeping it nice and toasty. So that's one of the functions. Earth does have Mauna Loa, which is a decent volcano in terms of in our solar system. Yeah, not Olympus Mons, but that's because Mars's geology is kind of.
Did you know that Olympus Mons is big enough that if you're standing on the edge of it at the away from the center, that the actual caldera is going to be well beyond the horizon, and it will be for a very long time if you start walking towards the caldera.
Yes. That's wild.
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's an amazing volcano. I'll say from the point of view of Mauna Loa, it is a massive volcano, right? So you say, okay, it's got 4,169 meters above sea level, but it goes quite deep, because one of the things you should remember from is that Mauna Loa is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and that its size, it goes deep into the ocean. Now, on you say, well, how deep? Well, the ocean itself it's in an area where the ocean is quite deep, and so if you look at the if you go from the base of the mountain to the summit, including the ocean, it is around 9,170 meters. That's over 30,000 feet for those who are metrically challenged, let's say. So if you then understand that the weight of Mauna Loa has pushed itself into the crust another 8 kilometers, right? So the weight of Mauna Loa has pushed itself into the crust. The base of Mauna Loa to its top is 17,170 meters, around 50,000 feet. And the amazing thing is that this Mauna Loa started erupting only about 700,000 years ago, right? This is a very recent volcano. This is not millions of years. It's sub-million years. It probably broke the surface of the sea around 400,000 years ago, and so it is by far the largest volume of any active volcano in the world. Even the dormant ones, it is definitely the super stuff. So but the hotspot is moving, right? The hotspot underneath that's fueling the magma chambers as well as the Pacific plate are moving, and so right now Kilauea is kind of centered on the hotspot. There is a volcano off the shore that's about 900 meters below sea level that'll break the sea probably in the next 10,000 years or so. But Mauna Loa remains sort of the big, Kamehameha, if you will, of mountains. And again,
So
its
you're saying
volume.
by the time of the Unification Wars, there will be a new Hawaiian island.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I think only
the
Chesh got that
area-
one, and maybe not even her.
So from edge to edge, Mauna Loa is about 120 kilometers. The volume of Mauna Loa is somewhere between 65 and 80,000 cubic kilometers.
That's a lot more than 11.
Yes, it is extraordinarily massive, and the fact that it's done it in the last million years. When Mauna Loa has eruptions, it pours out lava at an enormous rate. Even though we've had some really fantastic eruptions, of flows in Kilauea, Mauna Loa has, for example, had things where they've had like up to a million cubic meters per hour come out.
Jeez.
That's a lot. Wow.
So Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain, when he was writing Roughing It, was hiding in the Pacific Islands. Apparently, he was sarcastic to some Texans who wanted him dead. Apparently, free speech in Texas, even back then, was under pressure, and so he went to as far away as possible, the middle of the Pacific Ocean, to sort of.
It's a nice
escape.
way to put it.
Yeah. All right.
But he has some the diaries that he's left behind at Volcano House has some very descriptive stuff. He was a master craftsman of the English language, and he describes some of these Mauna Loa eruptions with really amazing detail. So yes, Mauna Loa is not Mauna Loa's Mons, but we haven't had our plates locked up. I think
Yes.
the continents will have one last regrouping. We think, given our models of the Earth, there'll be one new Pangea that will then kind of sort of break a little bit and stop. So we have one more recombining. At that point, Earth will lock up. Wherever the hotspot is underneath in Hawaii, the hotspot will produce a mountain that'll not be a million years old, but will last for millions of years. And we'll build our Olympus Mons class thing that'll reach the stratosphere. So
It'll
get
be
there eventually.
even
You just have to
better
wait.
than the original Olympus Mons.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, I think we have had a wonderful chat about volcanoes. It was slightly interrupted by current events, but that happens on live streams.
I think we did pretty good considering how kind of everybody is now talking about that current event.
No,
Any other questions?
I agree.
People have a chat or anything like that? Anything else?
I didn't see anyone tag me with a question, so I think people have had their questions answered. Of course, if you do have more questions, then I would encourage you to go over to the Volcano show that Chesh does with Landon and Manya. because that is a regular thing where you can see Landon. Is it monthly? Is that the deal?
Yes, monthly, I believe.
It's once a
The-
month. It's not this Friday. It's next Friday
There you go.
Yeah,
So
the 19th.
On your channel, Chesh?
on Debate Hub.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be on 8 p.m. Pacific on September 19th.
Also, Debate
we'll do
Hub
that next
official is linked in the description. So if you're wondering where to go to the link in the description. I don't think we're going to do any wrap up stuff about like what's coming up next because you guys know come tomorrow. There's a show here.
But could I, for those that I encourage to come here and see, could you consider clicking the like button? It helps.
Yes, please do.
Dapper. And also consider, Patreon or membership stuff, or if nothing else, I would suggest click the subscribe button. Subscribe doesn't mean you're getting a fee. It's a poorly labeled, like many things in YouTube. It really means I like this channel. I want to see more stuff.
Yeah.
And so you can make Dapper feel good, and you can tell by clicking the mislabeled subscription. Again, you won't be bothered. It'll just say to the YouTube algorithm, Dapper does cool stuff because not only does he debunk things, but he also teaches you stuff. So he doesn't say just he says, well, here's what it is. And so Kipp is an example of that, where they talk about real scholarship while they laugh at people that pretend.
Right.
We
Plus-
do a lot of laughing, that's for sure.
Also, the current subscribers number is a number, and when number goes up, it releases happy chemicals into my brain. So
Number go up.
Yep. I just got
I
that.
did hear the conservative leader of Canada say, when number goes up, number goes up. Can you believe that?
I mean, he's not wrong about that particular thing. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much. I hope that you subscribe to Kipp and Chesh here. Chesh has 2 channels linked in the description, if you can believe it. And like I said, Landon will be on Chesh's channel talking about volcanoes again. So once again, if you want more volcano stuff, go check that out. All right, bye
all in a
everybody.
playlist.
Oh, and furthermore, ice must be abolished. Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Tapioca Weasel, Arrow Dodger, Dan Sheedy, Eleron Teller, Phil Rivara, Ian Chen, Joshua Geese, Kelvin Brostic Van Manen, Landon Noll, Regios, Sphincter of Doom, The Plastic Mouse, Volis, North Texas Fossils, and John Ackerman. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.